Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Whose Line Is It Anyway stars Colin, Mochrie, and Brad Sherwood bring their Scared Scriptless tour to Strathmore in North Bethesda, Maryland this Saturday. I spoke with Colin about his favorite improv memories, as well as hilariously roasting his TV co-stars like Ryan Stiles and Wayne Brady.
Hi, Jason. It's Colin.
Hey, Colin Mochrie. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in DC.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I think this is like the third time we've spoken, actually. I think you called in when you came to the Kennedy Center in 2016 for that big NSO show, and then again at Warner Theater, I guess, with Brad Sherwood in 2021. So I assume this one here will be more like the latter. It'll be you and Brad, Scared Scriptless at the Strathmore. So is it more like the thing we just saw at Warner?
Yeah, I mean, it's still basically Brad and I doing a version of Whose Line without the dead weight, as we like to call Stiles and Brady. So all fun, made up, everything starts with the audience, non-political, goofy fun.
Awesome. And why? And have Ryan and Wayne heard you call them dead weight, or will this be new when they're listening to this interview and they're going to say, "Son of a Colin"?
I don't think they understand what dead weight means. So they're not the brightest. I mean, both of them very lovely people, very lovely. Would give you the shirt off their back, but thick as posts.
The only reason they're giving the shirt off their back is to lighten the dead weight. That's the only reason.
Exactly.
How long have you and Brad been doing this particular? I mean, we'll get into Whose Line and the TV history and all that in a minute down the line. But in terms of this Scared Scriptless sort of stage touring show, how long have you been at it?
We've been touring. I think this is our 22nd year. So I guess so far so good. Don't want to get too optimistic, but it seems to be going well.
Yeah, who knows? The Strathmore one could be a disaster and be the last one, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be good. No,
we're pretty confident. We feel good. We've figured out what to do now.
Awesome. Well, speaking of figuring out what to do, yeah, what sort of stuff are we going to see? I assume is it going to be some of the famous, our favorite improv games or any audience interaction, stuff we saw on Whose Line, or is it like stand-up comedy stuff mixed in between, or like what kind of games we see?
It's all totally improvised. Everything starts with a suggestion from the audience. We have many games where the audience is on stage with us, providing either sound effects, one of a Whose Line favorite, the sound effects game. And then there's some games that we've had to sort of make up or adapt because there's just the two of us. And then there's games that we, who knows, we may try for the first time there. We're constantly coming up with new games that make us as uncomfortable as possible, because we find the farther outside of our comfort zone, the more fun we have.
I love it. And I assume those games, I mean, it's not like trademarked by Whose Line itself. These are like improv games that probably go back to, local improv theaters around the country for a while, right? Like you can pretty much do these games and not have to worry about it being, branded as Whose Line, right?
Yeah, so far they haven't sued us. I mean, even the Whose Line games that we played, a lot of them have been, theater improv games and theater sports improv games forever. So yeah. I think the improv community just shares everything, because we're those kind of people.
I love it. So the whole point is if our listeners, show up to the Strathmore on August 26th, they're going to be in the audience and they will have a chance maybe to get called up on stage and do blank. Like, give me an example for a good radio soundbite. Like what might they get? They were sitting there enjoying the show. What might they get called up to participate in?
We do a game called Six Brave Volunteers. They line up behind a microphone. Then Brad and I will do a scene at every once in a while. We won't finish our sentence. When we raise our hand, that means the person who's at the microphone has to finish our sentence. And not just with one word. Sometimes they, can go on for a little while. So it makes it really, wacky, I guess, for lack of a better word, because you never know what these people are going to say.
I love it. It makes it so much different than going to just like a regular stand-up show, which is fun and all. But this one, you're going to be interactive, and you never know. Every show is going to be different because it's all improv. It's going to be great. Dote on your little co-star here. I don't know why I said little co-star. He's a big guy.
I know, he's 6'4". He's pretty big.
Dote on your big 6'4" colleague, Brad Sherwood. What makes him so funny? Or I guess how should we put it? If you had to bottle up his energy and sell it, what would that label on the bottle say for Brad Sherwood?
It would just say major irritant because
Major.
that's kind of what he is. We have sort of a sibling relationship where he's like the younger brother who's constantly finding ways to irritate me and bug me. I mean, he's a incredible wordsmith. He loves words and play on words. So he's a great verbal comedian, and that really is his strength.
I love it. I love it. So grab a bottle of major irritant. What? How would he label you though? You know, self-deprecating for a second. How would what would be his comeback at you after calling major irritant?
Oh, well, I think for me, he would call my bottle meal ticket. Because let's face it, I'm giving him a career.
You are the meal ticket. You know what I mean? I love it. He's scared and you're scriptless. Well, and then
Exactly.
and final, I want to go into some of your career journey a little, but real quick while I'm thinking about while we're labeling people because that's so funny soundbite wise. Ryan and Wayne, I know you called them dead weight, but Ryan Stiles and Wayne Brady, if you're going to compliment them, what would it be?
Well, I mean, let me tell you, Jason, how painful this is, but I will do it. I mean, Wayne is basically just raw talent. He can do everything. You know, he can sing, dance, impressions. He's funny. So that's also a major irritant. And, I grew up with Ryan. So I've known Ryan for, oh, geez, almost 50 years now. And he he's never at a loss. He's always knows how to make the funniest line. He's incredibly generous as an improviser. You know, he started as a stand-up, and a lot of stand-ups aren't very sharing when it comes to improv because they're used to being like the center of attention. But Ryan gets as much enjoyment out of setting you up for a joke and seeing you crush it as he does getting the punchline himself. So I know I make a lot of fun of those guys, and I mean, really, there's a lot of fun to be made of them. But we've been very lucky with the cast of Who's Line. Everybody really still gets along very well. Everybody's become really close friends. So it really has, not only is Who's Line being great for us all professionally, but personally also.
Absolutely. That's good to hear that Ryan gets as much joy out of watching you knock a joke out of the park as himself. Sounds like a very giving comedian in that way. And then I mean, when he went on Chappelle and did that hilarious sketch, is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a you know what? Was he
Yeah.
talking about you or who?
No, of course not. I'm almost like a substitute father for him. He just adores me so much. He would never dare choke this bitch.
I love it. I love it. Well, note to self, I might edit around that on the live radio, but that's making the podcast, baby. That's hilarious. um, hey, you talked about, that you grew up with Ryan, more or less over the career and everything. So remind our listeners real quick, your story of like, born in Scotland, back in like the late 50s, but your family moved to Montreal and then Vancouver, at a pretty young age, you came to Canada. So you mostly grew up in Canada. So remind us how you broke in. It was at Second City in Toronto, like late 80s, right?
Yeah, I was at Second City. Ryan had actually just left to go to LA. We were at Second City together. And the Who's Line producers, Dan Patterson, Mark Levison, were doing a cross North America audition tour. So they auditioned our cast after they saw our show and loved it. They auditioned us at 8 in the morning, which is a horrible time for comedians to audition for anything. And because we auditioned as a cast, we did that thing that casts do. Everybody was very supportive of each other, so nobody really stood out. And it wasn't until the next year my wife had written a project with her writing partner that's being picked up by Imagine Television. I moved down there. They came through again. I was working with people I didn't know, so it was like, hey, look at me, look at me. A valuable lesson for the kids there. Don't share, go for yourself. And managed to get it there. So from there, I thought, oh, this will be fun. This little show in Britain, that'll be, and then it just became a career. My first show, my daughter was 2 months old. We just filmed in January. My daughter is now 32. So it's been a good steady gig.
Wow, it sort of spanned your daughter's whole entire life, actually. That gives you a good a sense of how long and fruitful and successful this has been. Yeah, I guess that British one was from 88 to 99, something like that. And it was hosted by Clive Anderson. Just memories of what made Clive a fun host, or just the vibe of that British set compared to, we'll get to Drew Carey in a second. That's what most of us remember. But, just memories of we've seen some reruns, I'm sure, of the British ones. Kids today even have seen some of those old ones. So yeah, what was it like working with Clive?
Clive is great. I mean, he is incredibly smart, very dry. He's like the epitome of what you think a British person would be. Um, Uptight, but still very funny. And a few years ago, it was the 30th anniversary of the British Who's Line, and we did 4 live shows at Royal Albert Hall. So Clive was hosting. We Josie Lawrence, Mike McShane from the British show were there, and it was like no time had changed. Everybody was still fun, and Clive is the master of a sarcastic dig, and does it so well, and still hasn't lost a beat.
I love it. I love it. And then, of course, as we just mentioned, it comes over for an American version. It's such a hit in Britain that I guess that Hollywood takes notice and say, oh, we can do a version of this on ABC from '98 to 2007. A huge, amazing, popular run with Drew Carey behind the desk. Just similar like you did for Clive. Dish on Drew for a second, because to me, I mean, you all were hilarious. I don't want to take anything away from you. You're doing the improv, but man, watching Drew just cry laughing behind the desk as he's like frantically hitting the buzzer, like, I can't stop laughing. Stop. Like him crying laughing is what made it so funny to me.
Yeah, Drew was like one of the biggest fans of the show, and I cannot say enough lovely things about him. He Every year he would take the cast and crew of not only Who's Line but the Drew Carey Show on some trip somewhere. He was very appreciative. He'd say, you go out there, you guys work for 4 hours, and then people come up to me and say how much they love my show. So he really liked to show how much he realized how integral we were to his success. And of course, he was a big part of the success of Who's Line. As you say, he was the audience representative. People loved watching him cry with laughter at whatever we were doing.
Oh, it's so great. And yeah, and what is it? Where everything's made up and the points don't matter, and it's so many good catchphrases. And I guess him hosting this sort of like I guess it's not a game show, but the game show style is probably what made him the new Bob Barker on The New Price is Right. So it worked out well for everybody. Well, we
Oh
have to.
yeah.
I want to mention some of the side splitting guest performers that you had, because I mean, Robin Williams was hysterical. Rest in peace. And Richard Simmons, that one is like TV gold, all time stuff. Like, I'm just, what did you say? Like, this one takes quarters or something, something like that. Uh, Memories of
Yeah,
Richard and Robin.
Robin, I think, well, certainly was a dream for all of us. He was certainly a big influence on everyone who was on that stage. And, when he joined us, he was an Oscar winner who was doing our little show. And he was so um, in the spirit of improv, just one of the guys. He was one of those people who knew the crew's names within minutes. He was lovely to all of us and had such a great time. And I mean, he elevated our energy by 150%. He was just like a ball of energy. So that was, I think, a special moment for all of us. We were all of us who were there for that show. That was an incredible moment. Just a chance to meet one of your heroes, and also just to see how lovely a man he was. That was really special.
Yeah. And then,
And then
and Richard
Richard
Simmons
Simmons,
was just fall on the floor laughing.
he God bless him, just so committed to it and was there to have fun. And I have to say, I think that scene is like one of the funniest scenes that was ever on television. People constantly would you know send it to me whenever people come up and talk about how much they enjoyed Who's Line. They always mention that scene because, and it was because of Richard, because he was so committed. I don't know how much improv experience he had, but he just did everything you hope an improviser would do. So again, lovely to have him, and certainly a lot of energy.
Absolutely. I'm with you. It's one of the great moments in TV history. Right up, it'll go down alongside Vitamita Vegemin and all the all the other stuff. I mean, it's
Exactly.
well, if that's the one everyone talked about, but like for you, like, did you have a particular like I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say what's your favorite moment. There's so many games, but did you have a favorite game? Was it like Seams from a Hat or Hoedown or the? I always love when you and Ryan did like the greatest hits or the infomercials and stuff like that. But I don't know. What was your favorite one to do?
But let me just say, it will never be Hoedown. It was Hoedown was the most reviled show in the history of that show. Nobody loved it. For me, it was. I think Greatest Hits was consistently my favorite. First of all, I got to sit down, which is always nice, and then it was Ryan and I goofing around for a little while, and then handing it off to these amazing singer improvisers. So it was a perfect scene in that I got to be a participant, but I also got to be a viewer and watch, the genius of these musical guys. Yeah, that was always a fun scene.
Oh, you and Ryan are classic together. Man, I think a lot of those all-time TV moments between the two of you as well. And tossing it to Wayne too for the songs. It's amazing. Well, before we go, I'd be remiss if I don't mention, it kind of it had a revival on the CW from 2013 to present. Gosh, has it really been 10 years of that version too, hosted by Aisha Tyler? Man, time is flying. But yeah, dish on, Drew left and did Prices Right. How fun has been working with Aisha?
Yeah, it's been great. When I heard Aisha was hosting, I thought, oh, great, because I knew, of course, from all she's done, but I thought, well, how are we going to make fun of this beautiful, strong black woman with a great sense of humor? And luckily, we found a way. She's just loves to get in there and mix it up. She's again great at the insults, which spurs us on. So she has been a great addition. I love that every host has stamped it with their own personal style, and she jumps in there and does scenes with us. Yeah, again, we've been very fortunate with the people who have been at the helm of the show, and she has been exceptional.
Awesome. Well, you've been really exceptional and generous with your time. I guess sort of like in the final seconds, the big elephant in the room everyone wants to know is, we got this writer strike and actor strike going on at the moment. I mean, obviously this is a touring thing coming to Strathmore, so that's different than like, scripted shows or whatever. But like, how does that affect Whose Line? I guess the show is renewed, like just renewed in May. They said there's going to be a 21st season, but I thought I saw, rumblings that the 20th season was going to be the last one because, the cast wasn't getting fair compensation and residuals and all that stuff that everyone's, striking for now. So where does that stand?
Um, to tell you the truth, I have no idea. I mean, it has been an ongoing thing with the Whose Line family. It's tough because this is a show that's given us all a career, so it's hard to be incredibly bitter against it. That being said, I don't think anyone there feels that they've been compensated fairly because we have come up with the content of the show, but there's nothing in contracts or that deal with improv. Um,
Right.
Basically, we are the writers of the show, and I'm putting writers in quotes because, as I said, we're coming up with all the content, so we should be getting some sort of compensation for that. So that said, who knows what will happen? It's such a small, in a way, small part of our career because the shooting is like 2 weeks out of the year, and I think most of the time we take it as time to sort of get together and have fun as opposed to, oh, this is a job. But it would be nice to, especially when it seemed like every second week we saw, the show was being sold to stations in Britain. It was sold to HBO Max. There's a new streaming service that's just been sold to, and we don't get a piece of that. So we feel there should be some compensation.
I agree entirely. It's like you're saying, the improv, it's a unique scenario where you're sort of the actors and the writers, and you're not really getting, your fair shake for that, if you ask me. But like you're saying, it's a larger conversation. Like, for decades and decades and decades, writers and actors secured rights for residuals, or, something would make this much money at the box office for a movie. You get a piece, or it does this rating on TV. You could kind of track it. But now that all this stuff's getting licensed and picked up and original content for HBO Max and Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, everything else, are you getting a piece of every time someone subscribes? Or it's like we need new rules for everyone to get fairly compensated.
Yeah. I mean, writers have been throughout history unfairly compensated. I mean, without writers, I mean, of course you have improvisers, but still, you need writers for the movies, the series. Improv is great for certain shows, but for like really in-depth look at people's lives and the day-to-day things that people go through, you need a writer with a strong point of view, a strong sense of dialogue, and they are important to entertainment, to the world of entertainment, and have been ever since the talkies happened. So I hope it gets resolved quickly and fairly, and people can start making a great living again at what they love doing.
I love it. Well, this has been a great interview. I award you 1,000,000 points, and well said on the strike. All right. Well, Colin Mochrie coming with Brad Sherwood for Scared Scriptless at, man, that's a mouthful. Let me try it again.
Yeah, you got to be very careful. It could go really bad very quickly.
Scared Scriptless at Strathmore. Say that 5 times fast. August 26th in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of DC. So get your tickets now, everybody. Colin, thanks so much for joining us again. It's always a blast catching up with you.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Always fun.
All right. Talk to you later. See ya.
Take care.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.